All right. Good evening. We're going to be opening a regular meeting for Monday, December 5th at 6:30. Could we please have a roll call?
Councilmember Graham Mejia.
Here.
Councilmember Kusamoto.
Here.
Councilmember Poe, absent. Mayor Pro Tem Edgar.
Here.
Mayor Stevens.
Here. At this time, we are going to have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilmember Kusamoto and the invocation led by Mayor Pro Tem Edgar. So if you would, please remain standing.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please bow your heads. Dear Lord, thank you so much for this evening, for giving us the opportunity to serve the city. And Lord, we just thank you so much for all the blessings you give us during this holiday season. Lord, we want to thank you for just a blessed Thanksgiving, and we just want to pray that you'll be over us in this meeting tonight. And we pray that you keep Councilmember Poe safe on her trip to Chicago, and that you overlook our city. Lord, thank you in everything we pray. Amen.
Amen. At this time, we will be recessing to close session, and it will be with a conference with legal counsel in reference to 4.1a on the agenda. We'll be back shortly. An open session, and we did have a closed session conference with legal counsel, and our city attorney was instructed to speak to that a little bit later on in the meeting. All right, we're going to move on to presentations. We have a presentation by Michael Murray from Verizon tonight.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Steffens, City Council members. My name is Mike Murray. I am Verizon's Director of Government and External Affairs for Southern California. Happy holidays. As you know, I'm here for a brief FiOS update with the city. As I mentioned last year, Verizon has 18 local franchise agreements throughout its serving area in California, and the city of Los Alamitos was an excellent partner with Verizon in getting the network built. Los Alamitos, as an LFA, was built out in September 2009. We are currently adding FiOS service to MDUs, multi-dwelling units, such as HOAs, and MTUs, multi-tenant business units, and of course residents as they contact us. The number of FiOS business customers in Los Alamitos has almost doubled this year, and the number of residents with FiOS is growing as well. Our take rate in Los Alamitos is about the national average, and of course we're working to grow that number. Network speeds and services continue to expand. Provisioning of FiOS will continue next year, determined by property owner permission, and in the case of businesses, the configuration of the network and availability. I haven't seen a construction schedule for 2011, but I do know that FiOS will continue to be built here in Los Alamitos. Businesses and residents in Los Alamitos and cities throughout California can call 800-483-5000 or check online at www.verizon.com/FiOS to order FiOS services. Our video service manager in California is Kay Generide, who much of your staff has worked with on LFA issues. And our FiOS construction manager is Debbie Shaw, who has shared this stage with me before. And she welcomes calls if there are any FiOS issues regarding construction or installation. Thank you, and I'll try to answer any questions you may have.
Very good. Does anyone on the council have any questions?
I do.
Go ahead.
Thank you for coming tonight.
It's my pleasure.
You made a comment earlier regarding multi-units, both resident and business, and they need to call you in order to have that, because I've had several people in the apartments ask when they're going to be getting, you know, the extended service. So they need to contact you?
They do need to contact Verizon to begin that
and-
contractual.
Perfect. And the 800 number, could you give that to me?
Yeah, 800-483-5000.
5,000, okay. So all they have to do is contact you and you come out and set them up?
Yeah, they'll make a determination what the status is on the network and availability, and then we'll come out. And don't hesitate to give any residents with any issues my number.
Okay. And the expectation of time for all of it to be complete, do we have any?
It's ongoing.
Ongoing.
You know, the network is built. It's just, you know, as it's ordered now, essentially.
So everyone has access to it. They just need to contact you to have it.
All residents have access to it. Business, that's on a more or less a case-by-case basis.
Okay, but the multi-unit residents are good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. That's all I had.
All right. Councilmember Kuzimoto.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So thank you for being here. So maybe it's a bit redundant, but you said it's all built up. So all the trenching, all the laying of the fiber optic lines, it's all complete for the residential installations?
Yes. Now, there may be some minimal trenching to a home or things like that.
Right.
Yeah.
But we were one of the first ones, and so I know what you had to come out and actually break through the concrete and trench out to our house. That was really kind of nice. But
yeah, the war zone is over.
Yeah, all the other stuff. So all that infrastructure is there.
That's correct.
Now, is there a plan to put it in for the businesses that are not served?
It depends on the availability of the network for businesses and the proximity to the backbone network.
Okay.
You know, we can obviously provide it to any business, but sometimes the cost will be prohibitive based on how much network work needs to be laid to get to that business.
Okay. All right. Thank you. No other questions.
All right. Mayor Pro Tem Edgar.
Yeah. Hi, Michael.
How you doing?
Good. Hey, so looking through the contract, we had, within our franchise agreement, we had talked about a milestone of when we would have the businesses kind of built out. Being an active member on the Chamber of Commerce, a lot of people in the city on the business side definitely wanted a little bit more specifics on that. And I was just curious if you would be able to put together a communication for the business community, maybe to the Chamber. You know, a lot of people that I know, including myself, moved my business out of Los Al because I wasn't close enough to a place where I can get high-speed internet for a high-tech business. And, you know, again, right now, I think that in that agreement, and I know we've had this discussion about a year or two ago, is we were wanting to see what the build-out plan would be specifically for the businesses. And I would just be interested in finding out, are we built out as per our agreement, or have we just kind of stopped at this point because you don't see the demand?
As my understanding is, and I checked this before I came, that we are built out to the agreement. You know, and the agreement is primarily for residents. But the businesses, there is availability for business as well. But as my understanding is, the construction is built out for business. Now, I welcome going to the chamber and talking with chamber members about this. And I'll continue to try to get some research on that just to see where the network is regarding businesses.
Yeah, my experience was that it was almost incumbent on the businesses to get a group of people together to build a business case to come to you guys to have this thing built out. And I think that was a little bit of the hard part, is we're running businesses, not trying to do the kind of the bundling. And
Right.
City Manager, I don't know if you know off the top of your head, or the City Attorney, but you know, if you look at the franchise agreement, is there no franchise agreement in place for the businesses, or is it strictly residential?
Residential agreement.
Okay. Yeah, I would like to take you up, Michael, on having you come out to the chamber if you wouldn't mind.
That'd be fine.
Thank you. That's all I have.
All right. Mr. Murray, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the presentation.
My pleasure.
All right. It looks like we might have had a little bit of conflict or confusion in our scheduling too, but I understand that we do have people here from the Americanas Award and that would like to speak. So are there any speakers here?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor and honorable council members. My name is David Shawver, and I am the chairman of the 2012 Americanas banquet for Cypress College Foundation. The paper that I had a chance to pass out, I hope you all received it either in the mail or from my email. It talks a little bit about the theme this year, which is our community heroes. Since I've taken on this project, I think it's beneficial for all of us to revisit the core of why we put this together 35 years ago. And that was to have a real good relationship and a strong relationship between the cities that we serve and the residents of the community, the students, and of course your city. So that being said, I'm here to personally invite you to come down. I gave you your own invitation there. You should have it. And I think you'll also find on page 2 something that we always ask those questions. I put down the mission of the Americana Awards Banquet. And of course, our number one priority is to honor the community's local heroes and spotlight their accomplishments, to showcase the city's pride and vision, and then finally, of course, we want to raise money to help scholarship for your students that attend Cypress College. And primarily, I'm again here to strengthen the bonds between Cypress College and the communities we serve. I did list and highlight some of the things you as an elected official can do to make this successful. So I would appreciate any support I can get. Councilmember Ethan's from Stanton. He's also on our committee. And he has a board. I have 2 boards like this that I'm going to leave with you next week. They're a little bit bigger than this one. And they're white and they're really nice. But this is just my sample. Oh. Anyway, what we would like you to do is we would like you to put a collage of the things that you're proud of in your community. People, events, places, happenings over the years. This will be proudly displayed at the Los Alamitas table, so that everyone from all the other cities can see the things that you would like to display and share with us. I think this is just a great way to make it grassroots, and you can put any other local heroes that you want on there that may have not been a recipient this year. So we're really encouraging your participation with your city select committee. You as a council, we've invited the fire department, the police department. We have the OCFA coming, and so we're going to have a pretty good crowd. We're also honoring, as you know, Bruno Serrato, who is the chef at the Anaheim White House, and he's up for CNN Man of the Year. So we have what we think is an ideal person to represent all our communities for the charity work that's being done. At this time, I'd like to introduce Raul Alvarez, who's the director of the foundation, who's going to introduce your recipient. Thank you very much for your time. I'm looking forward to seeing you in February.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dave, and thank you for your past support of our Americana Awards. And I do have the pleasure of introducing our 2012 Los Alamitos Citizens of the Year. That's James and Shirley Bailey. I'd like to just ask them to stand up. We're delighted to honor them and add them to quite a stellar list of folks that have been honored in the past. Appreciate your past support, invite your participation again. I think one of the priorities this year, in addition to making the event the most successful that we have ever had, which means we would exceed last year's event, because last year's was our most successful to date. As Dave mentioned, we're also recognizing Bruno Serrato, who he described a little bit about Bruno. There are over 500 students from Los Alamitos that attend Cypress College. We have an enrollment of about 15,500 students excuse me, at the college. So we appreciate the chance to be here. I also wanted to acknowledge we have a select city committee that makes the selection of our Citizens of the Year and really has the direct connection with the community. We have found that a local city committee is much better positioned to identify who ought to be recognized and acknowledged than we would at the college, where we're kind of an arm's length away. So we have several members of our city committee here. Johanna Zinter, Margaret Kendrick, Alan McLean, Alice Jemsa, Judy Claybaugh, Johnny Strohmeyer, and Marilyn Poe is on the committee but is not here. So if I could ask the committee to stand. So I hope you'll join us, and I don't know if there's any questions, but thank you for the chance.
Thank you. And All right, let's Councilmember Mejia, do you have any questions?
No, I've been to your event one time. It was a beautiful night. So I'd encourage anyone who can to go.
Councilmember Kuzimoto?
Oh, no. Thank you for being here and recognizing our families in Los Alamitos.
Mayor Pro Tem Edgar?
Yeah, a question for you. To be on the city selection event, isn't it true that you've had to be an Americana Award recipient?
It's made up of predominantly past recipients. Yeah, all past recipients. That's right.
Yeah, I kind of knew the answer to that one, but what I was just saying is that from City Council's perspective, it has a long history of it's one way that our small city can actually come together and have our Citizens of the Year recognized in a more regional way. And I think that everybody that's won it, including all the names that you mentioned, we're very proud of them as City Council and very proud of them as a city. I'd also want to say to Jim and Shirley Bailey, we're very proud of you too. Congratulations. That is such an honor. You guys don't give away that award very lightly, and it goes through a pretty strenuous process. So I think anybody that's been associated with the Americana Awards knows to actually achieve that really shows that you went over and above the call within the community. And I'd also encourage everybody. February 25th is the Americana Awards. I've been I don't know, very many years in a row, but I actually had the honor about 3 years ago of being up there and with Lucy Ann Mulhart, who from the Casa Youth Shelter had won, and they needed somebody to escort her, and I picked that one, and so I really enjoyed that, though, to actually even be a part of it. So I would encourage everybody in the community, if you're out there, get behind the Americana Awards. All of us have college-age kids that are getting ready to go to school, and it's a good way to plug into Cypress College and see where your involvement and volunteerism can get in place in an Orange County college, and we just really appreciate all your effort. Thank you.
Thank you for your kind words. Appreciate it.
Is there a contact number for anyone that wants to get involved in this?
There is. It's 714-484-7126. And I just happen to have about 15 invitations that I'll leave here.
Okay, sounds great.
Can I leave?
Yeah.
Yes.
Why don't you
right
leave them up here in case anybody's interested? They can just come up and pick them up.
It was a great presentation, and it's a wonderful cause, and I wanted to thank everybody that did show up in support of it, and I also wanted to thank James and Shirley Bailey, who I personally have known for quite a while, and congratulations. Thank you. Thank you. All right, now we're going to open it up for oral communications. Anyone in the audience can speak on any item on the agenda. Within the subject matter or jurisdiction of the City Council, remarks are to be limited to no more than 5 minutes per speaker.
Hello, Judy Clabeau, President of the Los Al Chamber. I just want to thank all of you that attended the State of the City that the Chamber had sponsored. It was one of the best events we ever had, and at that time we were able to present a check to the MWR at the base for $22,000 that were proceeds from the Wings, Wheels, and Rotors. So thank you all for your support, and we look forward to starting next year, right, Johnny, in January? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any additional speakers? And I see Johnny running up there.
Just one real quick. I'm Johnny Strohmeyer, currently sitting as the Chamber of Commerce CEO. I'd kind of like to address Jeff Stewart. It has really been a true pleasure for me since I've been here to work with him. He has brought a lot of class, and I thank you very much. I've really treasured our friendship. And to the future person, I'd like to congratulate you on your good selections, but you are going to be missed.
Thank you. Additional speakers?
Hi, my name's Beth Pyburn. I'd like to echo what Rule said. As a employee of Cypress College, a member of the board of on the foundation board, and a representative or a person that lives here in Los Alamitos, I will tell you it's actually embarrassing sometimes to be there and never have a city representative present. When you see city after city ticking off what they're doing and we do nothing. Cypress College is a wonderful resource that we have in the community. It supports, can't tell you how many students from Los Alamitos. And I will tell you that probably a third of the nurses at the hospital are graduates from Cypress College Nursing Program. And on another note, I'd also like to wholly support item E on the agenda, although it's with a sad heart because our commission will miss her. But please support that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Roy Reynolds. I'm the president of Polling Strategies out of Fountain Valley. I sent you an email this afternoon, which your clerk or your staff has kindly copied and distributed regarding the my company's interest in bidding on the poll that you're considering running on the annexation issue. My firm is in the automated polling business. We run a sophisticated software and server combination that uses VoIP technology over the internet that contacts households directly via voice telephone and collects their touch-tone telephone responses to questions that are asked of them, and then we put that into standard polling and spreadsheet format for presentation back to you. With over 7,000 registered voter households in Los Alamitos, we have the capability of contacting every one of those households if they've registered their telephone numbers with the Orange County Registrar of Voters. We can also poll in your neighboring cities if that's of interest to you, and we'd be happy to, as I said, respond to any bid you put on the street or present a proposal if we could get some time with your staff. You have my contact information, and we'd be happy to work with you in the future. Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you. All right, next speaker.
Thank you, Mayor. Now I get to be the mayor from Stanton. Anyway, the reason I wanted to speak now is I just had the opportunity to give you an update on the water concerns that both your city has and we have on the increased rates on water by our water supplier. I had a chance this afternoon to go to the very ill-published meeting for the California Public Utilities Commission. It was held in the city of Carson at 2 o'clock. Actually, the only notice I got was if I wanted to go to Barstow or Apple Valley, so I took the shortcut and went to Carson. I had a chance to speak out to the judge advocate to let him know the feelings not only of my community, but community like yours, which are in an uproar for the outrageous water bills that we're getting. Many of our bills are being increased up to 50%, and yet we're still asking for an additional 25% increase recently by the water company. I just want to let you know that we have bonded together with about 32 cities in Orange County, 32 cities in the state, which are coming up with the same problems that we all have, and that's the increase in our water. You know, it seems that the more water we save and the less we use, the more it costs us. So somehow the water companies figured out a formula so that it's like the slots in Vegas. You know, they always come up a winner. But we're going to be researching their books. We're going to research their finances. We actually, today was pretty lucky. I ran into a couple of congressional aides who are going to get their congressmen to do an internal audit of the books of the water company to find out where the money's going. And we're going to find out why we're not getting our infrastructure improvements, and we're going to find out why we're not getting the things that we deserve. I think the best thing they can do is not look at a rate increase, but we need to look at a rate decrease for your city of Los Alamitos, the city of Stanton, and all the other cities, Placentia, that are involved in this. So I want to thank you for the support your council has given me over the last 2 years of my crusade. I'm not giving up, and I will continue till we get equity in water for all of us. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mayor Shaver. Next speaker, please. See.
Good evening, Richard Murphy. As I sit here, I want to talk about the trash contract. As I sit here watching the bickering that goes on in the council, meeting after meeting regarding the contract, it struck me, what does this council owe Consolidated? And why does the lawsuit drag on? For what reason do we subject our council members to bitter remarks from both the audience and amongst the council? Frankly, I don't see the reason. It's ironic to me that we have this fight because we actually have a great contract at a price that is surprisingly phenomenal for a city of our size. However, in retrospect, it appears that the council did a poor job in presenting the contract. The city handled it improperly, and that has left many with the impression we could have done better. 1 year later, after the lawsuit, now as a city, we're in a precarious position as we try to figure out our next course of action. Each option has its problems. As an outsider, I do not profess to have the answers. Looming over our heads are massive legal bills that the city attorney says will be paid for by Consolidated, but I suspect will become a large contentious issue down the road. I feel that any chance we have as a city to heal this city appears to be based on the settlement of this lawsuit. Today we start with a new city manager. And I do echo the people, Jeff, who congratulated you. We are starting anew. I urge the council to find a way to resolve this lawsuit and then to open up the contract to a transparent bidding process. Along the way, I urge an open dialogue with all interested parties. That discussion will probably have to be in a different forum than a council meeting because this doesn't allow a real give and take and an open expression of ideas. I'm sure that meeting will be very contentious. However, I do believe that all the parties involved do have the best interests of the city at heart, and in the end, we should be able to have a discussion of each of the trash companies and go on from there. Maybe after all the facts are on the table and the process has been gone through, we find out that Consolidated is the best option. If handled correctly with honesty and openness, I, for one, could live with that outcome. I digress a little bit, though. Our immediate problem is a return to civility that will only be accomplished by the ending of the lawsuit, and I urge all parties, both on the dais and the people who brought the lawsuit, to work together towards that end. As I have a minute left, I would like to make a comment on 10B, which I'm against spending the money. I think if you just put out the word that the City Council is going to consider anything regarding Rossmore, you'll have more than enough people come here. You won't have to poll. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional speakers? Seeing none, we will close oral communications and move on to item number 7, Register of Major Expenditures.
I'll move it.
Is there a second?
Second.
Could we please have a roll call?
Councilmember Graham Mejia.
Aye.
Councilmember Kusamoto.
Aye.
Councilmember Poe, absent. Mayor Pro Tem Edgar.
Aye.
Mayor Stevens.
Aye. Moving on to item number 8, consent calendar. All consent calendar items may be acted upon by one motion unless a council member requests a separate action on a specific item.
I'd like to pull all but B. Real quick, just real quick.
And I will pull B. Sorry.
Let me catch up on this one here. You've got B, and you want all but B. Mayor Pro Tem Edgar?
No, I'm going for the ride.
All right. Councilmember Mejia, you want to start with A?
Thank you, Mayor. The same issue I have with the meeting minutes, we've been reduced to action minutes from summary minutes, and it does not give a clear picture, or really any picture, to the future councils or residents that may be interested in what was actually discussed at these meetings. This is the official document that it's the history of what goes on here. So I'm opposed to the meeting minutes, and other than that, we can note it for the record, Wendy, if you don't mind the standard, and go ahead and, with that issue, pass it back to you.
All right. Do we want to move on that one yet?
Well, I do have a question then while it's been pulled. On item 12, or closed session, there are two parts to the closed session on the agenda, but we only really dealt with the one, so should we not strike out item B? Or do I not recall correctly? I do believe we weren't going to meet on the other part. Or no, did we meet?
CCB.
Yeah, closed session? Okay, special meeting, okay, so I withdraw my comment, thank you. It's all a blur.
All right. You do have a question on item B, though, right?
No.
No, so let's
That's it?
deal with A. So I'll move to approve item A.
Okay.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
All right. Item B?
Okay, item B, I will recuse myself for abstain from voting on this one. There is a warrant reimbursement for my travel to the JPIA conference, so that's why I wanted to pull that.
All right. Is there a motion to approve it?
Make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed or abstain?
Abstain, yes, I'll abstain.
All right. Councilmember Mejia, you wanted item C?
Thank you, Mayor. Actually, I'd like to bring forward item C and D at the same time. I just wanted to congratulate staff for doing a good job getting competitive bids and going with the lowest bids, get the best bang for the buck. And other than that, happy to move forward, making a recommendation to move both those items.
All right. Is there any additional comments on that? Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? None. Item E?
Yes, actually, just wanted to defer to the city attorney. There was an issue we wanted to address on that.
Just wanted to note that in section 3.4.2 of the proposed contract where there had been a blank, the number 136 is to be slotted in there. That's the vacation leave accrual per year. So with that, I think we have a proposal that is acceptable to Ms. Avery, and it's up to the council to decide whether to approve.
Make a motion to approve recommended action.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I don't know if there's a congratulation. Or
And also, Councilmember Poe had asked that I convey the fact that she would have liked to have been here to vote in favor of the contract, and she sends her congratulations and support.
Okay, congratulations.
Thank you so much. I'm honored, and I know I have a lot of work ahead of me. I'm eager, and I just very much appreciate the opportunity. So I will see you soon.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's sort of, I think it deserves a little bit more than what we did right there, but I think we all have the same sentiments on it too. It's just it's going to be a wonderful thing for the city. So thank you. All right, that's the end of the consent calendar. Moving on to public hearing, item A, 9A, and it's Community Development Block Grant, CGBG, project list for fiscal year 2012-13. Could we please have a report?
Yeah, what we recommend is that Mr. Mendoza do a staff report, and then we'll open the public hearing for comment.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. This report represents a project list for next year's CDBG projects. We're going to apply for the county. The application was released today. It'll be due on January 9th, and these will be projects, if approved, we can start on July 1, and that'll be for that fiscal year. What we're applying for this year is design and administration of future year Old Town East Alley Improvement Project 1, design and administration of future year Old Town East Alley Improvement Project 2, and construction and administration of Old Town East and West and Apartment Row ADA ramps, and then construction, design, and administration of curb, gutter, and replacement in Old Town East and West. That number 4 project is one we think where we can get construction, design, and complete in the same year. So the other ones we're going only for design in that first year. CDBG monies fund programs for neighborhood revitalization, economic development, and infrastructure. The awarding of funds must serve residents of low and moderate income census tracts in our community. For most projects, staff will apply for design monies in our first year and then construction monies in the next year. With CDBG, you have to use half of these dollars by December 1. So you have to meet milestones, and we want to make sure we meet those milestones. Alley projects have been selected because we've received funds in the past for those projects, and we have a pretty good chance of getting that extended for more years. The ADA ramps have been chosen because it continues a project we're doing in this current year. And the curbs and gutters project was waitlisted by CDBG last year, so we think we have a good chance of it being approved this year. These projects total cost $200,000. With our 10% match, we're going to apply for CDBG of $180,000. They released the RFP today. They're going to have $1,065,000 available for the entire county. So we think we're realistic in what we're applying for this year. For the county to consider our application, a resolution is required and a public hearing. We also did a separate public hearing at the Planning Commission level to gain community interest early on. There was not too many people who attended. We advertised in the newspaper, but we didn't have a lot of attendees. But we wanted to make sure we had that extra outreach per year because the county wants to see that. With that, staff is recommending that the City Council approve these applications. They're again due January 9th, so we don't have a lot of time, and it was released today.
Very good. Thank you. Now, before I open it up to public comment, I'm going to ask Mr. Mendoza to please keep a list of any comments so we can always answer them for him. Is there anyone that likes to speak on this item? Item 9A. All right, seeing no one, we're going to bring it back to the council and the council rotation. I have no questions on it. Councilmember Mejia.
Thank you, Mayor. I was wondering, Stephen, for next year, I've received a lot of, not complaints, but just comments about the quality of the sidewalks and the lifting and the danger people have fallen. And they're good people. Luckily, they haven't, tried to cause any problems for the city. But is there a way that we can address next year? Do we have something slated already? Or could we address an overhaul of the sidewalks throughout the community, depending on, severity of the lifting or how much we have in grant funding that we can match?
Absolutely. If it's in a target area, one of the low-income census tracts, then these CDBG monies can be used for that.
Okay.
Tony is already monitoring sidewalks throughout the city on an ongoing basis. There are certain sidewalk projects that are so large that they're included in some of Dave's bidding when he does a 5-in-1 or a 4-in-1. You've seen that application done a couple of times. But the smaller ones, Tony's getting to on a regular basis, like right before, just last week. Well, last month we did on Bloomfield, and then this past month we did in front of the care facilities on Catella. So ongoing, so anytime you have a sidewalk that we should address, provide it to us, we'll add it to the list, and we'll find a way of getting it done in the next year or two.
Perfect, because that's what I recommended, that they call the city. And please don't think that was a slam to your department, Tony. It's just, we've got trees and they're uprooting the sidewalks and it's hard to keep up with them. But that was the only thing I'd like to see us focus on for next year is a real, I guess only in those low-income areas, really focus on that. And also any ADA ramps that may or may not have been addressed at, up until now. And that's it, Mayor.
All right. Councilmember Kuzimoto.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Stephen, I have a question. It's not really so much about the projects, but kind of the process. It seemed to me last year it was rather rushed and sort of just kind of coming together real quickly. Would you characterize this year a little bit differently than last year?
Well, this year I took a few liberties and put it on the council agenda, hoping that they would release the RFP by tonight, and they did release it today.
Okay.
So we won't be as rushed.
So, and then I think that's good planning on your part, and we could always delete it if it's not really appropriate, right? So
we have 34 days to apply during a time period where there's a lot of city halls closed. So it's a really interesting constraints we're working with, but we'll get this done.
Do you recall last year how much block grant money was available?
There's about 10% more than this year, and last year we did 6 separate applications, and we were probably a little bit far-reaching at the time.
Sure.
We're probably a little too ambitious.
But last year, I think you got 2 or 3?
We received 1 and waitlisted for another one, and then we're reapplying for that waitlisted one.
Okay. So very good. But I want to, applaud you for at least being proactive in getting this out here. It doesn't feel as rushed as it was last year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Back to you, Mayor.
All right, Mayor Pro Tem Edgar.
These funds are very important. We've done a lot of good work throughout the city in the years. A lot of the alleyways in the apartment row were a result of these funds. It's just a shame that these amount of funds, for $1 million for the entire county, really doesn't leave a whole lot of expectation. I would just say, from a city perspective, I think it's always good to try, but I think we got to be realistic to not spend too much time on this, because at the end of the day, there are 34 other areas, cities within this county that want these funds too. And good luck, and I hope that we'll achieve it. Hopefully, you don't spend too much more time on it this year. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right. So we have 34 days to be able to get the filing in, and. Do we have a motion to accept staff recommendation?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? None. Right. Moving on to item 10, discussion item, City Council positions regarding groundwater replenishment system expansion. Stephen taking that?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. On November 21st, board members of the Orange County Water District presented information to the City Council. At the meeting, resolutions and letters, sample ones were provided to our council, asking us to express our support and to draft a letter and resolution and bring it back to the City Council. However, staff has done that, but staff has made some amendments to the resolution stating that not a clear support for increase in rates, but kind of a reserve support for the increase in the rates, as opposed to the alternative of buying the water from outside the area. And I will show you where in the resolution we've done that. Is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the 10th whereas. We'll see the City Council supports the GWRS initial expansion project, but does not support an increase to ratepayers. The council recognized that these improvements will be an increase to ratepayers generally. However, this method is the least expensive way of providing water as opposed to importing of water. So what we've done is we've altered their suggested resolution to pull back a little and to express some of the concerns that were provided by City Council that night when they presented.
Very good. All right. Well, I'm pleased with the letter, and so I'm going to move it on and see if any of the other council members have anything to say. Councilmember Mejia.
Well, I think it was interesting that I think it was Stanton Mayor, David Shawver, I believe was his name. Do we know, City Manager, about his group that's involved in fighting this?
That's a different rate. What that is the Golden State water increase, which has gone on, and as we've heard presentation on that, is that they've increased their water rates a significant amount 2 years ago and requesting another increase significantly, 24% this year. Mr. Shawver's requested that we join in with a group of cities that includes Placentia and several other cities in California, 32 total, as he mentioned. And I have received a proposal from the city manager of Placentia late last week, looking at it now, and if I can get all the information in a row, I'd have an item on the next agenda looking at the council's participation in that group. And what they're really looking for is specific intervener status in and trying to limit the water rate increases coming through from Golden State. This one is a little bit different, and I'm not aware of Stanton's position or anybody else's position, frankly, on the replenishment district, which is a whole different kettle of fish.
Right.
Forgive the pun. So, and basically what that really is that, you're paying the MWD rates as pretty significant rates, and this is a rate that's still an increase, but less than the MWD rates. And so really, as Stephen correctly characterized it, it's a modified support for a rate increase that nobody can support, but it beats the alternative.
Right.
Yeah.
No, the only reason I ask is because I know at the last meeting when we talked about this that, and if I remembering correctly, I apologize. I thought we talked about how the increases here end up costing us more because it's part of that whole filtration system, and then it's more expensive for the water to be purchased. Is that
They do. They cost us more, but it's still less expensive than the water. So don't quote me on the rates. The MWE rates were 30% more than the rates would be if.
I remember like 8.
Yeah, 800 as opposed
Yeah.
to 540 with the replenishment district of refilling us with the treated water. So I mean that's really it in a nutshell. It's an increase, but it's less of an increase than you would otherwise have if the replenishment wasn't supported and entered into.
Okay, so if we don't support this, then we end up paying more. That's the gist
Correct.
of it. Now,
no.
I thought it was just they were going to be able to produce more water.
It's if the project fails, and the city's support is important to the success of the project. But if the replenishment district project fails and they don't have support, then they have no other alternative but to buy water from the Met, which is a much more expensive proposition than refilling the basin with the replenished water from the district.
So no matter what, this is less expensive for the residents.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's all I have.
All right. Councilmember Kuzimoto.
I have no questions. Thank you.
All right. Mayor Pro Tem Edgar.
Yeah, I have a couple comments. First of all, I just want to disclose I'm on the GWRS steering committee, so I am going to abstain from this vote. I would just say that I think that the staff did a good job of trying to maneuver around the wording in this, but I'm not going to state any position, and I'm not going to vote on it.
All right. Do we have a motion to follow staff recommendation?
I'll go ahead and move.
Is there a second? I'll second it. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And abstentions?
I abstain.
And if I could note for the record, I'd like to make sure that included in the agenda minutes that we did verify with the city manager that this is the best case scenario as far as cost for the residents of Los Alamitos.
Well, let's specify that the rates are lower than buying from the Met.
Okay, well,
Yeah, okay,
the
yeah.
specifics that will make it clear for the people in the future if they're coming back to look at these notes.
And I believe that was duly noted. Okay, moving on to item 10B, consideration and possible action retaining Probolsky Research, LLC, for the purpose of conducting community survey. Do we have a...
Yeah, this is my item, and I put it on the council agenda. For some time now, I've been curious about what the actual polled numbers would be for the city, and mainly on a couple of different issues, but mainly the sphere of influence, which includes both the corner, the commercial corner there, and Rossmore proper, and also the city's support or lack of support for the proposed downtown improvement. We've sort of discussed this around the periphery for the last year and a half or so, and I've not seen any numbers. I took the liberty of calling Mr. Probolsky because he was familiar with the issues. He had done some surveying and for the Rossmore Community Services District. He's aware of the issues, including the annexation, and frankly, it's kind of a short learning curve for Mr. Probolsky to be up to speed knowing what we want to. Secondly, I felt that, with all due respect to Mr. Reynolds and his firm, which I'm sure is a fine firm, it's just recency and local knowledge why I asked Mr. Probolsky to submit a proposal for this. What I'm really looking for is $14,900, or just under $15,000, to do a telephone survey poll to go on a variety of issues, whatever we can fit within the number of questions that Mr. Probolsky would provide. And what I'm really looking for is kind of the community reaction on how they feel about Rossmore, both the corner and Rossmore proper and the downtown, and services generally. It's been a long time since the city has done a survey. I have a sense that they're happy with a good number of the services we provide. I'd kind of like to know that and verify that. And I think that the time was appropriate for me to bring forward a proposal to survey that. What we're looking for tonight is general consensus to move forward with this item, to expend the $14,900 or authorize me to enter an agreement to do that, and to work with Mr. Probolsky in developing questions and then actually bring the actual questions back to the council for approval, so there's no mysteries about what's being asked and why. And I'd recommend approval of the staff recommendation.
All right, bringing it back to the council. I'm going to be the first one on it. Did we look at any other companies besides this one?
I did not.
Is this a time-sensitive item?
No, it's not necessarily a time-sensitive item, although we are moving forward with the general plan update, and to the extent that a poll might be helpful in that process and looking at the downtown item and everything else that we're considering on this or might consider, it's something that I think we should move forward with in the relatively near future.
Okay. What time frame would we be looking at as if we did go back out again on this?
I'd like to start polling. Well, I don't know. I'd defer to Mr. Mendoza, but I think by the middle of January, if we were to get some polling, get some results back, say, February, we could still make it useful for the general plan update process.
Yeah, probably not after April at all.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very good. All right, going to move on to Councilmember Mejia.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just going to finish up this one note. I guess I have a couple of questions.
You know what? I seriously made a mistake. We need to open this up to the public too, don't we? At this point?
Well, there's not a public hearing. Did anybody request to speak on it?
I think we should allow them to speak.
Thank you,
Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I'll be brief. Mark Niddickman. I am with the Rossmore Homeowners Association, the Rossmore Advisory Committee, but I'm speaking on my own behalf. We think the survey of your citizens is a great idea, not that it's any of our business, but we thought we'd throw in I thought I'd throw in my 2 cents worth anyway. I think my thought is a couple more questions sort of to expand on where you're going with the center. One would be to ask them the $64,000 question, whether they're interested in the city of Los Alamitos annexing Rossmore. Why not ask the question? It hasn't been surveyed in some time, and it would be interesting to see the answer. I think we have surveyed our citizens on that question a couple of times, and we have pretty strong answers, but I think it would be worthwhile for the council to know what their citizens think about that. If you're asking them about annexing the corner, you might ask them the double joined question, which is, from my understanding of conversations with the county, that an annexation, because of the sales tax revenue you'd be gaining, would come with a price, which is providing services for Rossmore. So I think it would be a useful question to ask how your citizens feel about providing services for Rossmore. Finally, I think Supervisor Morlock might want to know how your citizens feel about the super city idea. And so I just throw that out there. It was something we asked our citizens a while back in a more informal survey, but didn't have the money, frankly, to ask them this time around. So those were my thoughts, and for what they're worth, and appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional speakers?
J.M. Ivler. For BIA Solutions, we're a consultancy. I love boilerplate. It's amazing the little types of things you find in it that really could bother somebody. For instance, in their City of Colton annexation study, they dug into the specific points of pain that residents associated with incorporation so that communications consultants could develop an effective plan to address them. That's called pumping and then dumping. You pump them for what's painful, you find out what words give them less pain, and you make sure you use those. Frank Lutz is the king of it. He made liberal a dirty word. They, in their research LLC profile, they identify community receptively to potential scenarios. They profile support, identify issues that influence support or opposition, and then they help you roadmap a communication and outreach effort. Well, if you've got opposition, and it looks like this is prep for PR, not actually polling to find out what we feel, but polling to find out how you can change what we feel if you don't like it. As a matter of fact, if you look at their research approach to methodology, it's pretty much what they say in the first 2 paragraphs. That's what their specialty is, helping you develop your communications to overcome objections. The one thing that really bounced out at me is you're asking the city's managers saying, give me 15 grand. And the research results are kept in the strictest of confidence and released only to designated parties, and then only in the formats approved in advance. So we don't even get to see the results. I really find that interesting, that their policy is to be as non-transparent as possible and help you reframe it so that you can sell it to us. Not get the data about how we feel, but how you can change how we feel. I would like to see another company, heck, I might even bid on it. I've never done it, but I can hire a couple of kids to stand outside of Bonds and ask questions to everybody going in and record it on $50 recording systems and then just tally it up and give you the tally. I'm sure I could do it for a heck of a lot less than 15 grand. So I really think you should put this off and possibly even discuss it and get some community input. You might even find people in our own community who might have ideas on how the city could do outreach for a heck of a lot less. Thank you very much for your time this evening. Have an outstanding evening.
Thank you. Any additional speakers? Seeing none, I will bring it back to the City Council again. City Manager, was there anything that you wanted to add to that?
No. I mean, the methodology discussed is the same with any other consultant on most other projects. I don't need to apologize for that. I'm not going to tonight. And as far as the openness of the results, it can be as open as the council deems them to be. And as far as the questions that were going to be asked, I was pretty clear in saying that would come back to council for approval. So short of that, I think it's a fairly open process to date. And if the council chooses to go forward, we keep it that way.
Thank you. All right. Back to the City Council again. Councilmember Mejia.
Are you sure?
I think so this time.
Okay. I guess my first question is, from my understanding, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that the residents of Rossmore would have to vote to become part of Los Alamitos to be annexed. So if that's the case, why are we spending this money?
Correct. You're right, as the residents of Rossmore would have to vote for it. Why I would spend the money is that nobody really has a sense of, everybody speculates, but nobody has a sense of whether or not there's support to move forward with any discussion of annexation in a formal way. It's what their neighbors have told them, it's anecdotal, and that's fine. I understand that. What I was looking for is getting a statistically valid study within plus minus 6% or so that would show where the residents feel on this. And it's simple as that, it's just information gathering.
Sure. But if I understand correctly, the council, the City Council for Los Alamitos, would be the ones that would be acting on behalf of the residents, that the residents of Los Alamitos would not, there would be no vote given to them. Is
in
that
some
correct?
Circumstances, in communities that are of like populations, for instance, as Rossmore and Los Alamitos, there's no requirement, but LAFCO has the option of requesting a vote of the annexing community as well as the community to be annexed. And frankly, we were looking up and down the state for an example of that. We've yet to see it, but it is in the state code that it could be asked for by LAFCO.
Well, yeah, because I know you and I had had this discussion before, because I wanted to make sure, you know, what the expectations were.
Right.
So to me, to spend $15,000 to find out what our residents want, which that's first and foremost our goal, but if they do not have a say in what's happening, why wouldn't we wait for Rossmore to make a decision? Because I think that it's really, unfortunately, the ball is in their court as to whether or not they want to be part of Los Alamitos at this point. And another thing that I'd like to bring up, if this is something that what the county, let me frame this for you. The county wants to get rid of all the unincorporated areas. They don't want to have to be financially responsible for them, so they're trying to create these super cities and blend cities together, which, you know, I guess I'm not opposed to that in the sense that it's good for the county, but I don't know that it's good for the neighborhoods that are being addressed in this. So if the county wants a survey to find out whether or not we're thinking that this is an appealing idea to annex Rossmore, why don't they pay for it?
We didn't ask the county to pay for it. And
Well,
as
maybe
far
we
as
should.
from my perspective, though, on this, in answer to your question is, before I spent any time, energy, staff time, or otherwise, in pursuing an issue that I was unclear where the residents felt, and frankly, I've been criticized for doing that, I thought it made sense to find out where the residents stood on this issue, hence the reason it came before you.
Mhm.
As far as requesting the county to participate in this financially, I have not. I'm certainly not opposed to doing that,
Mhm.
but I would certainly want to maintain control over the questions that were asked and the type of information we're trying to find out rather than have the county dictate that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm concerned about a couple of things. I know that this quote is for phone surveys. That's correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I know that during the election there were phone surveys, and I actually got one of the calls, and they were asking me questions about whether I supported myself or not. And I'll tell you, the one thing that I think this would be a disadvantage is that you're catching people, they're busy, they don't have the time to think about their answers, and these are very important questions. So if we're going to do a survey of any kind, one, I think we should ask the county to do it because they're the ones who are looking to get rid of Rossmore. Two, I think that instead of going to a phone survey where people are trying to answer the questions on these very complex issues, just like right one after the other, I think that a written survey where they can sit down, they can digest the questions, they can talk to their family about it, and come out with an answer that they're not going to regret down the line. And when you have to answer things very quickly, sometimes you don't give the answer that you would have if you had more time to think it over. I think that Jeff has a good point. We haven't done any surveys for the community, but I think that one item that we're missing where we could actually get everybody who's interested in having a say have an opportunity is if we were to put these on the ballot. You know, Jeff, I've mentioned before when we talked about the street revitalization, you know, it's kind of torn 50-50. And so instead of spending all the city's money and taking money from the reserves, which, you know, with the economy being what it is, we don't know where we're headed. We're spending $14,900, and I did some checking, and I don't know if this is correct, but I believe to put something on the ballot, it's about $7,200. So if we wanted to address the street revitalization, which is a great deal of money, it's $2.3 million at the bottom end of what we would be wanting to do, and then the Rossmore annexation, which would have many different effects on this community. Those could both be put on the ballot, and then everyone would have the opportunity to weigh in. And that would cost us $14,400, which is less than what we're asking for now. So I think that this is premature. I think that the people from Rossmore have already spoken. I think when I looked up on the internet, they said on their survey that was done by the same company, if you had to choose between what community you would like to be annexed to, if you had no other choice, it was Seal Beach, 51.7%, and Los Alamitos, 33.0%. So to me, they've already spoken pretty clearly. They're the only ones that have a vote, and I'm not really sure why we're spending this money and we're trying to force this down their throat. So I'd like to reserve the right to readdress after the other council members speak, and I'll go ahead and pass it back to you, Mayor.
We will be going around twice. All right, Councilmember Kuzimoto.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, City Manager, I know part of this was my discussions with you. I, thought at one point back in March when the latent powers question came up before this council that you were approved to spend $10,300, I think, to match the Rossmore poll. So I'm a little bit surprised that this one is, 50% more than that.
Well, I have discretion to spend up to $10,000. I don't believe I was giving specific direction to do that, but I certainly had the discretion to do it. What I'm looking for here is something a little broader than that, and that's really not my concern as latent powers or anything other than that. But there are a couple of issues here where I thought we could do this for a nominal amount of money, and as far as looking at the methodology of it and speaking with Mr. Probolski, I think that this is a reasonable shot to get a lot done rather than just focus on a narrow issue. I mean, I'm not really interested in finding out what the community of Los Alamitos feels about Rossmore's latent powers. That
Oh no, but again, back at the time, that was the
right,
topic,
no, I
and
understand.
we were trying to broaden the.
The game plan is, and what's happened since then is the city's gotten more serious about the general plan update, and what I'm looking for here, we're sort of talked about, and Steve and I have talked about with the consultant on that several things about the sphere of influence here, and quite honestly, it's like a Ouija board trying to determine what the community feel for the sphere of influence discussion should be. And we have no hard data on any of it. And as a result, I think it would be, in one of the things I was hoping we could do is come up with some kind of scientific study of the way the community feels, at least about portions of the sphere of influence here, as opposed to just guessing on it and stating anecdotally the way people feel. So hence the reason you have an item here that's bigger than what we had originally thought of.
Okay. Thank you. And then the sample size is around 300? Yeah.
And Mr. Popolski is here, by the way, to answer those specific technical questions.
I read the report, okay. Yeah. And in general, I do like the idea of going out there to understand what our constituents want. However, this other email from Mr. Reynolds, I think that deserves consideration as well. It looks like it's a broader sample size now. I do understand the statistics of it, that you don't really need the broader sample size to get a good feel. However, I think the flexibility of the way he described it, I think we ought to take a look at that and see how that might answer those other questions that you have that we did not talk about. And well, I'll just kind of pass it back to you at this time, Mayor. Thank you.
All right, Mayor Pro Tem Edgar.
Yeah, you know what? I think we've got a couple things going on here. What started this was, again, looking at the county coming to us with the corner for the annexation of the corner, and seeing that up here on the council, we didn't really have a unified voice. Probably even maybe a little bit consistent with what Jerry has said. I believe that we're elected to represent the people, and so if we do the best we can, and we've been listening, we've walked the community, we participate in the community events, we know where the community's going, at least we think we do, and a lot of people get behind us and vote. That process means that you bring that opinion in here. Something that's been clear to me is that as a council representing our community on something so important, we're not completely on board together. And matter of fact, we've been pretty divisive, more than normal on this issue, both in our trying to have engagement with the Rossmore community, and also trying to transmit a message within our community. I think in general, a poll is a good idea. I think it's something that we collect data on, and we're able to evaluate if it's crafted right as a vehicle to be able to do it. I think it is just more sophisticated than let some kids stand out in front of Vons with a tape recorder, as a somebody that definitely is very familiar with how this process works. It's much more scientific than that, and it takes a lot to establish a company that can be reputable to do stuff like this. My issue with the way this looks and kind of the dynamics of what I'm seeing up here is a little bit of a timing. I think that this item, there's a couple of markers out there as a community we need to think about. One is this is supposed to get our position in order, Los Alamitos, because there's a couple things in play that the community needs to be aware of. One, on the Rossmore community side, they've put in some sort of an application for latent powers. And I think what you've seen from this council is us to sit back and let Rossmore try and work through whatever direction they want to go and see what the reaction is to their latent powers request. Something that I learned through this process myself is that trying to be a vocal advocate of really a cost-sharing model where our police are closer to Rossmore residents than they are most of Los Alamitos seemed like a good idea to potentially provide police coverage. Being able to do animal control when a coyote problem is very similar to both sides, it seemed like being able to have that type of service shared might be helpful. Planning services, I lived in Rossmore, to have the ability to pull plan checks here, right across the street than to go down to the county seemed like a good idea from a shared services perspective. So coming at it as an advocate for trying to build a better economic model to support the community was something that I was very interested in. When I start getting into this poll, the issue or the challenge that we have is that about 5 months ago, this council nominated a ad hoc committee to look into these types of issues. I don't know, City Manager, if you remember the approximate time. So on the ad hoc committee is Marilyn Poe and myself, and our job was to reel back from all of the commotion that we've had with what was going on in Rossmoor, and take a step back and look at it as a city and see, is this something that's supported completely on our side? And what I mean by that is a lot of people look at the corner as an issue we should go out and just be able to say, hey, look, the county's saying, look, if you want it, come after it. But Jerry's right on the second account, which was even if we really want this and we have complete support in our city, if we go after that corner, there's 8 property owners and 129 residents in those apartments. It will come down to a vote of those people. And so the missing piece to me, seeing this on the agenda tonight, was, I'm kind of curious, City Manager, from your perspective, what is the status of the discussions on property owners? Because at the end of the day, if there's not support for people, like Jerry said, to be annexed, which is that, and the city doesn't recognize the bigger term issue, which is if we start this process, we probably have to go or be willing to go all in. If our community, Los Alamitos, is not behind us, we may be starting a process that we're not ready to fully engage on.
Yeah, if I had to characterize the property owners, we've had discussions, I would say that I wouldn't say they're not supportive. I would say they're not supportive, but I wouldn't say that they're not against the issue. Right at the moment, there's an indifference and a sense of show me. And so for the moment, there's no way I could claim that there's support among a majority of the property owners out there supporting that issue.
One of the interesting points that I'm drawing from this is Mark came up and he gave a perspective, and he spoke specifically that it was his personal perspective, not representing parts of Rossmoor. And he's been a pretty, I'll call him engaged person, Mark, with your involvement over there. And the interesting data point that I get from your point earlier was you're kind of encouraging on the poll. And, there is a part of me that looks at this and says, look, if we don't have support on the businesses side to go after and annexing a corner that would bring that money back to this community, us starting a poll potentially has the impact to rattle the cage of Rossmoor again and get this thing started in a high level of impact where we're going through a city manager change. And I'm not sure right now this would be the time I want to take on another battle. It's been a while for us to, as a community, I'll say very personally, me as a council member, to come to terms in the community going to soccer games and not hearing 15 people coming up to me on both sides saying, what are you doing? So, I want to do what's best longer term. Mark, if you wouldn't mind, your comment, Mayor, if you would indulge me, I would like to just hear, the interpretation of a poll seems provoking at this point. What's your perspective?
Do any of the other council members have any objection to this?
No objections.
All right.
Thank you, Troy. I appreciate the opportunity. I'm not aware of anybody in Rossmoor. I'm sure there are people, but who oppose to the city of Los Alamitos polling its own citizens about any issue. And as I said, I personally encourage it because, well, partly because I'm fairly confident as what the result will be. I think most citizens of Los Alamitos are opposed to annexation of Rossmoor. I think once they learned that Rossmoor citizens, there are more, even though you have a greater population, there are more registered voters in Rossmoor than there are in Los Alamitos, and they vote in much higher percentage. We tend to have more, I'm trying to think of a polite word. Anyway, our voters vote in higher percentage than your voters. And so Rossmoor would dominate a unified city, even with a 7-member council. So nevertheless, Rossmoor doesn't want to control the city of Los Alamitos. They just want to be left alone. That's the dominant sentiment, which people have probably figured out by now. If you were going in and actually actively surveying the citizens of the Rossmore Village area and surveying the apartment dwellers. I imagine there are people in Rossmore who would see that as more of a provocation.
Okay.
But I don't think surveying your own citizens would be considered a provocation. You may want to put it off for a while. As, my own feelers is that the citizens of that area would not be supportive of joining the city. You've got a utility tax, and we don't right now. But and taxes are always a big issue.
Mark, can one of the questions, City Manager, maybe with your dialogues with Mr. Tabata from the General Manager, your process that you're going through, and again, just City Attorney, my perspective is to try and make a decision on a poll. Cause and effect. I'm worried about the bigger picture, which was what we're trying to achieve by the poll, is to find out if we've got community support for an initiative that may already be a non-goer. If we don't know where the businesses are, we possibly might be wasting money up front. But the second question, Jeff, that I'm looking for is, where is your request for latent powers? Are we stepping in the middle of that again? Some of us aren't now following it as close, and so I'm trying to put this in perspective.
Well, the one entity I do not currently sit on the board of is the RCSD. And so I don't think I could answer that question.
Yeah, and I don't know that they've updated their original request. They had taken a stand to do some initial research into that process, and I'm not aware that a formal application has been filed, but I have to call Henry on Monday to find out.
I'd be shocked if a formal application had been filed yet, because the last I heard, I can tell you the last I heard, which is they had approved, as you know, filing the application subject to certain conditions precedent with respect to each of the latent powers, different ones for animal control than for law enforcement. As far as I know, those condition precedents have not yet been met. So my understanding is they have not yet filed.
Yeah. So again, there's a part of me very supportive of a data-driven process that we can get to a point. I just would like to be able to have this type of poll in its right sequence. You know, if this is a lot about, and you know, we get 25 questions or however many I've heard about that are in here, there's a part of me that loves to hear about the community, what's going on, how they feel. Look, my downtown revitalization project, something I personally feel super strongly about, is on hold right now because we can't seem to get ourselves together. I'd like to know if the community really thinks that's important. So there's a lot of value in this, but the 3 to 5 questions that could be about Rossmore, why set the expectation in our city? I've made personally a call to the community. If anybody cares about this and really wants to weigh in on this, come down to City Hall. All I'm hearing from our city residents is, you know, either neutrality or nothing. And so, you know, at this point, it doesn't feel like the community is completely, you know, looking at this as something. And I do think that what J.M. Ivler had said, you start something like this, it potentially is the beginning of a campaign of any sort, whether it's going for the annexation in that corner, but then you got to realize the full impact. And I don't think we are at a point right now where we've put all these things together. And I would just add as a narrative at the end of that is that, Jeff, I will acknowledge that I know as you're getting ready to go towards the end of the month here, you're trying to tie up as many loose ends as you can. And I think that this is something that is definitely out there. I can see you have a lot invested in this, and but I'm just questioning the timing. I hear Warren and Jerry kind of unified in a position too on sole source vendor. I don't think that the price is that unreasonable, but I am a little bit concerned about the timing, and I don't want to have a provocation. If me personally, one of the 5, if I really cared about that corner, why would I want to start this battle if I don't even have the residents or the owners on that corner on board? And so what Jerry said, I would say that, we got to kind of weigh this off and put this action in its sequence if we're serious about this. And, I don't want to have us continue to inflame Rossmore over this issue.
You'd be surprised how okay I am with
that. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, we're going to bring it back to the council again to go around one more time. That was my concern too, really, the sole source vendor. And it is a concern. And the speakers are correct. Mr. Ivler was correct on that. I think that's something that should have went out. But even beyond that, I really don't see where we're going to accomplish anything. I mean, Rossmore is still working through their latent powers request, and we don't know where they're going to be. And as I go out into the community, the majority of people are iffy both ways. They don't know it. But one of the comments that was made was about utility tax. Well, yeah, you know, it's...
Well, let me
no one
say I was aware I was going to take some arrows in doing this, but I thought it was important because I wanted the council, and I think you have, to at least start thinking about some data-driven processes and some of these projects that we're at loggerheads on. And if nothing else, if we got that debate on the floor, then I've achieved my goal on this. I still believe the approach offered by Mr. Pobolski is a good one. I think this is a valuable tool, but certainly I don't think it has to be done today or tomorrow. In fact, I think what I'm hearing from the council is staff needs to sharpen its pencil, winnow down its aspirations a little bit, and look at it maybe a different kind of polling. And certainly, had I known of Mr. Reynolds out there, I certainly would have included him as well. I mean, it's just this is convenience, and I just wanted the item to be discussed. So, frankly, Ms. Avery could have a better sense of direction when she has to start taking on this issue more seriously in April or so when the general plan comes to a head. So I think the discussion was worthwhile. If you took no action, I think we've achieved a lot of our goals tonight and talking about the issues that matter to the council.
Well, I thank you for that, and I think you're sort of seeing the same direction, really, you know, from all of us on this, because, again, we don't want to force ourselves onto any city that's not ready or accepting it.
Yeah, see, I don't know. See, a lot of it is, I don't know. I believe that there is a lot of value in this process, and I know it's been discussed in several different forums at the council. It's difficult because I don't have the ability through the Brown Act to talk to each of you about, hey, what do you want to see on this poll, you know? So it's a little bit difficult to try to figure out exactly where they want to go. Again, this discussion was worthwhile certainly to me, and I think Angie found it the same way. So I think we're in pretty good position. And if you want to table it and bring it back in a month or two at another time when the issues are more clarified, that's fine too.
Yeah. One last question for you. Didn't we offer to do or pay for part of the survey back quite a few months ago, the one that Rossmore did, or at least help them with it? And what was the response we got out of that?
We received no response. So.
Okay. All right. And that's pretty much my opinion on this one right here, too. It's just, I don't think it's the right timing. I think that they have quite a few issues that they have to vet out themselves. We wish them all the luck and speed in coming up with the solutions to these different situations, and we don't want to interfere at this point, or at least I don't. Councilmember Mejia.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like for us to, when we bring this back, do some investigative work and see exactly what it costs to put these items on the ballot for the next election, and then have the opportunity to talk about that simultaneously when we talk about the surveys in different options of ways we might want to go. Because I think the survey could be good, but I think, you know, when people have a chance to vote on it, even better. And that's all I have.
I will put that on the list of 197 things I want to get to Angie's. I'm heading out the door.
Yes, but that's my only one, though, Jeff.
Okay.
All right. Councilmember Kuzimoto.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, City Manager, I do appreciate you bringing this forward. I know we had some discussions on that, and I do agree with you on a data-driven process to really understand what our constituents want or what they feel are the important things. And echoing what Mayor Pro Tem Edgar said about the revitalization, that would be a perfect tool to get that data-driven process going and understand what's important to our constituents and how the decisions we make, we be mindful of those. So back to you, Mayor. Thank you.
All right. Mayor Pro Tem Edgar.
Yeah, I would just kind of reiterate, I would still say I support this in its right place. I think that there's a lot of value for this. I think that this type of polling process it would serve our community good. Something Alice Jimps is out in the audience, and when I first came on the council, I got a library of stuff, but one of the things in the library was a poll, kind of something done a long time ago, and it had a lot of different questions about what's going on in the community, and a lot of it focused on services provided by Parks and Recreation, and were you satisfied with this, that, and the other. Marilyn and I, over the years, have talked about that as being something that was probably needed. When we did this in God We Trust sign in the back, we had a little dilemma up here, so we did an online poll that was pretty simple, and we were trying to be cost conscious there. I do think at some point we need to get more sophisticated with what we're trying to do. You know, we've got some of us up here that really have maybe a different perspective of trying to think longer term for cost models. And nobody's right, nobody's wrong, but I think you know, we really need to kind of get on board together and see community-wise for some very specific issues. The one thing I would kind of caution us is that Sherry's recommending putting items on the ballot. Unless we plan on following through and then doing something with that item, you know, that I think you know, that it does cost $7,500, and that's the cost for the ballot statement. But I mean, if you really want to put something on the ballot and have it take a position and then go out and campaign for it, I mean, it's like running a campaign. You definitely, somebody's going to have to put some time, effort, and resource into it. And so if we want to do that and we don't really care what the outcome is, then, you know, it'll do as it will do. And I just think that, you know, if we would do something like that, we would eventually, as a council, have to take a position uninformed before it would actually go on there.
And that's my point, is we're calling people tentatively with this. We would call people with no background for them, no data, and ask them to make a decision. And I just don't think that's the best way. And I'm happy to campaign and take those things out to the people. We're not running this year, so maybe it's you and I. And just to touch base, with the In God We Trust, we were divided on it because we wanted to give the residents an opportunity to weigh in. So Kat Driscoll, Ken Parker, and I, and a couple of other community members went door to door and delivered the survey to every home. Now they could call in, they could do it online, but we did the work. We went out and we reached out to the community. Anyone we could talk to, we talked to and got the feel for what they wanted. And really, that's what I think we need to do with something that's this big. That's all. That's my only concern.
Okay.
Sorry, Troy. Thank you for letting me.
No, not a problem. I also think, though, on the end, God We Trust, we also did something online, and people got to vote and compliment with the manual work that you guys had done. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, bringing it back to the council. Do we have any recommended action on this? Any direction? We're gonna table it. There you go. All right, and that it shall be. All right, moving on to item 11A, and this one is City Council reorganization. Can we?
We're just looking, the staff is recommending we reschedule this to the meeting of December 19, 2011, when there's a full council present to vote on the reorganization.
All right. Does anyone have objections to that?
No.
Is there a motion?
You don't need a motion if there's consensus.
All right.
Yeah.
General consensus? Sure. I agree with it. Anyone else?
Yeah,
no?
Fine.
Okay. We're getting a lot of nods, so it will be brought back on the 19th. All right, we're going to move on to item number 12. I'm sorry. Are we, or are we going to go back to closed session again right now?
Well,
council comments. Right?
Council comments, correct. Yeah.
All right, let's go on to council comments. I think since we're going in rotation, we've had a lot of things that we did over the last couple of weeks. In fact, I haven't even kept track of them all. But I think the major thing was that we came up with a wonderful replacement for our city manager the way it stands right now. We wish Jeff the best, and we also know that we have the best in Angie filling into those shoes. Those are big shoes, and she knows that she can fill them too. So personal congratulations to you. And I know we up here made the right decision. So I'm going to move on to Councilmember Mejia.
Thank you, Mayor. Also, I'd like to start off by saying we're going to miss you, Jeff, but congratulations to you on your new place of hire, and welcome Angie into the position. What were you thinking? Also, I'd like to find out the pool heater. Had several people call me and say, seems like it's been sitting there for about a month and it hasn't been installed and they're freezing, so they don't really want to swim.
I'll let Dave Hunt answer that.
Okay. Ooh.
I know the answer, but
Okay.
Thank you. Yes. Well trained.
Yeah, first good move. Good job. Good job. This is going to be bad news, I could tell.
Well, Tony and I were out at the pool facility last Friday. The water temperature then was 81 degrees there, so it wasn't too bad when we were there.
Okay.
We do have the new pool heater in place, and I have a contractor on board. He's checking his busy schedule. He's going to try and get in either Wednesday or Friday of this week to get it
Okay.
hooked up. So we're just kind of fighting getting it into his schedule right now.
Okay. So can I ask you this? If he doesn't have time this week, because I got more calls on this than I have on anything since I've been here for 5 years. So if we can't, can we look into serviced companies in Los Alamitos that might be able to put that in?
Well, we did go out to bid, and we had 6 firms in there. We technically should go to the second low bidder that's on there.
Okay.
It's proper procedure if this one
Sure.
cannot deliver.
Sure.
The likely schedule is by Friday.
By Friday it'll be in?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I'll pass that on. Okay, and I spoke with Police Chief Mattern earlier tonight. There have been some disturbances in both Carrier Row and New Dutch. Christmas ornaments on lawns have been torn down or dragged down the street. And the people of those areas, I talked to one of the residents tonight before I came, and they said that they would love to have more police presence. And you and I talked about that. So if we could do that, especially during the holidays, they would greatly appreciate it. Wanted to say a welcome to OC Mattress City. They're the new business right there in the old Denny's parking or Denny's building. And if you have need for a new bed, we just ask you to buy it in Los Alamitos and keep the revenue here. A special thank you to the Race on the Base sponsors and Angie, the work that you've done. Wow, what a great list you've got. And just thank you for supporting our community and helping us put on these events that are both good for the residents that live here and the people that come here and do business while they're part of the race. I wanted to make sure that we announced that there's a holiday decorating contest. And on December 14th between 6 and 9, is it the Parks and, I'm sorry, the, what committee does that? Help me out.
There's not a separate committee. It's our department.
Okay.
And then.
But isn't it people from the commission also?
The commissioners are encouraged to be judges.
Okay.
And we ask for judges. We've been doing that for a while.
Okay.
And then we just pair off and separate the neighborhoods and do the judging.
Okay, great.
And there's no entry form. Residents just decorate their houses and they're automatically entered.
Okay. And there's a first and second place for each neighborhood, is that right?
That's right.
Great. So make sure that if you've got your house decorated, you have your lights on December 14th between 6 and 9 for our committee to go through there. And Todd, I was wondering if you could address this. I wanted to say a special thanks to Officer Fernandez. He had a life-saving medical aid, and if you could go into what exactly he did.
Certainly. It was a couple weeks ago. There was a situation here at the Oak Gym during a basketball game, and a person experienced a medical situation. 911 was called. Our officer was the first responder to arrive at the scene,
right.
And when he did, he monitored the person, and the person actually stopped breathing, and his pulse stopped, and our officer started CPR. Our great fire department arrived. They took over and got him to the hospital, and as a result of all of the medical personnel and our officer, they did save this person's life.
Yeah, I just want to say a great shout out to all of the people who were involved. I mean, saving a person's life, there's nothing better you can do in your line of work than that. So to Brad Fernandez, I just want to say thank you. As a council member, I appreciate all his hard work. Anything on a new officer yet? I had to, with the issue tonight, it came up, so.
The timing is good. We'll be giving you some information very soon.
Great.
As far as a start date, because as of today, we've narrowed down to one person, and it's just a matter of giving him a start date. So it should be probably before the end of the year.
Great. And you'll be bringing him in for us to get to meet the community. Perfect. Looking forward to that. And I did have a request over in Carrier Row, you know where the new wall is? Well, it's relatively new. They would ask that we would keep that cut back a little bit more. Sometimes, I know you guys are busy, but sometimes they can't get down the sidewalk and such. So they asked me to ask you. And other than that, I'll go ahead and pass it back.
All right. Councilmember Kuzimoto.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I think I, like the rest of you, attended the Chamber of Commerce's State of the City, which was a good event. I think it was before the last meeting, right? And then I met with the general plan consultant here at City Hall to go over as a stakeholder in the community. And then the incident at Oak, Chief Mattern, I brought this question up to City Manager, but AEDs, the was it automatic external defibrillators? Your officers don't carry those, do they? No. Okay, and we don't have those posted here, so I would like to ask the council to consider a policy on those. They are, I think, life-saving devices. One can get trained by the Red Cross to administer those. If anything, maybe have the officers carry those, and that might enable the life-saving a bit easier, facilitate those. So if we can consider that, those are.
I forgot to say, there may be some grants for that too. We put in.
Yeah, I myself, I'm certified to use a AED, so I think it's just one of those things that we ought to have. Okay, and with that, that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
All right. Mayor Pro Tem Edgar.
Yeah, I just wanted to start off, Jeff, I wanted to publicly acknowledge and thank you for all of your time and effort coming into the city. You came in 2009, and just a tremendous amount of stability that you brought to the city. You know, it's quite an accomplishment. You know, a lot of people that when they started seeing the agenda posted last Thursday, when Jerry was handling all the pool heater questions, I was getting the ones on the city manager calls that saying, is Angie, or what are you guys going to do with, you know, what's going on? And, you know, what was interesting is that for us to, as a city, to be able to have now groomed, this is the second time that we've been able to put a senior leader in position that we grew within our organization. Chief Mattern, 22 years on there at that time, 20-something now, I'll just say that. But, you know, we were able to promote our own police chief from within. And then Angie coming in, you know, if you look at her as her own revenue center, it, you know, she takes the race on the base from being canceled in 2007 for tough times. I mean, it was a tough time. I was on the council at that time. We had a lot of different stuff going on, and one of it was just trying to get the stability in the organization. We lost good folks at the top of the organization and the bottom, and Angie brought in some new folks. She knew right away and started growing them. And you know, the beautiful thing that'll happen over time that I see is that our not only on Parks and Recreation were we able to grow somebody potentially to help lead the city, but within Parks and Recreation, a couple layers deep, with which we have no involvement because our only people are at the top for the city manager, the city attorney, and the city clerk. Now Angie has grown her team to be able to potentially move up and fill the Parks and Recreation holes. It's a great story for our small city to be able to have the ability of grown an organization where everybody potentially can grow through this process. You know, a lot of people said, well, you know, Angie, you know, the concern wasn't whether Angie could do the job with, you know, 30 plus years of experience in city management. The issue was what's going to happen to Parks and Rec. Everybody's even, I got to see Beth is out in the audience. She accosted me at the Christmas tree lot. She's like, well, what's going to happen to Parks and Rec now? It's like, don't you care, Angie? You got a promotion. It's like, and she goes, yeah, that's good for her. I knew she can do it, but what's going to happen? You know, what's Corey staying? Is so that the questions in the community now are looking at the next group, and that shows me that organization is bore into our community. I will tell you to support my vote on this, that what I thought was easy is Angie comes, you know, the race on the base, the 4th of July, all of these events that take place. Angie is our chief fundraiser. Her organization is. I'll say she gets involved when she needs to, but she has the relationships within the community and the business community. She has the relationships at the base and having to help us negotiate at the base every year for our pool heater, our pool facility, all of that. She has the relationships at our city with the school district. You know, we've got the Oak Gym, we've got the fields that we have to kind of negotiate. So to me, the functions of the job was I think Angie's going to do great. I think that, Jeff, you've done an excellent job of setting the table for this transition. I think we kind of we sat back when we started going through this, and the more we talked about this in closed session, the more excited we got. And the last piece, which I think I'm okay to talk about here, was the biggest concern is, as a council, will we stand behind Angie and help her be successful? Because we don't always have a good track record of that. And I think what you've seen up here was a 4-0 and a 5-0 if you count the phone in by Marilyn to support Angie and try our best as a council to make her successful and make this this next phase of our city, really one that as a pivot point that we're very proud of as a council. So with that, I would just say again, thank you, Jeff. Good luck to you. I'm going to miss you as a professional. I'm going to miss you as your friendship here, and I'm sure that'll continue on. And congratulations to Angie. Had an opportunity to talk with Colonel Toy at the Joint Forces Training, or actually he's U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, but he was, I had just a communication opportunity. And about a month ago, I made the statement when we had the groundbreaking at the base for the federal buildings over there. He really wants to come and talk about the future of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Angie, to me, that is the future of the funding for the base, hopefully.
Yeah, I had one communication with Colonel Toy, and I will update you. He had been out of town for about 3 weeks, and we had touched base, I believe, a week and a half ago or so. And I do need to get him on a future agenda to come in. And I'm actually thinking perhaps the 19th. And I threw that out. I don't know that I've heard back. I'll double check. Yeah. So.
Yeah, he called me from Kentucky or something. He's on the road right now, but he might be back. I think he's coming back Thursday. Right. On last Friday, or I think it was Friday, we had our chamber mixer. And the only thing, I would encourage people that, if there's people in the community that want to get involved in the community in different aspects, you can come here, get involved in the city, you can do stuff at Parks and Rec. The chamber, the last two chamber events has been really outstanding. And then this last chamber event, they had Jerry, your son, there with the Los Al Show Choir. And they sang Christmas songs. And I got to tell you, I think that the chamber, any business, anybody that has a business in the community, I just would encourage you to get involved with the chamber. There's a lot of very exciting stuff going on, and they seem to be getting and attracting a lot of the show choir is an every year thing, but the last two speakers were very interesting as a business person to hear, and I would just encourage everybody to get involved. If you're unsure, you can call the city city manager and or the chamber directly. I also had the opportunity to attend the Seal Beach Parade last Friday. It was very interesting. I had an opportunity to talk to Lieutenant Colonel Russell about an issue that they're trying to put together at Madero's to celebrate the veterans for Christmas Day, or for Christmas on Christmas Day, and prepare for about 50-plus veteran families to get a free meal. So Madero's approached me at the chamber saying they're really trying to get involvement from the base. So I called Lieutenant Colonel Russell. In that discussion, I said, hey, I'm heading down to the Seal Beach Parade. She goes, hey, join up with our guys and go and be with them. It's a bunch of the folks just go down there. So had the opportunity. I just wanted to say thank you to the Joint Forces Training Base. Got to hang out with them through the parade, and it was a great experience. And it was very heartwarming as a veteran to be able to see the community at Seal Beach as it's going down Main Street with all these guys in uniform, and just the sheer amount of respect and remembrance of what these people are doing for us. And again, I would just encourage you during the Christmas season, realize that these families are going through a lot of hardship right now as they've got parts of their family deployed overseas. And I would just say, if you see somebody, Jerry said it before, go up to them and tell them thank you. The last thing I have here is just one more plug for the Americana Awards. If you're tuning in now 2 hours later after the meeting started, February 25th, the Americana Awards, please get out there. I told Marilyn that even though she's gone, I would do her plug for her one more time. If again, there's any questions, you can look actually online, the Americana, there's a lot of information online available, or again, contact City Hall or any one of us. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
All right. Councilmember Mejia asked if she could ask one more very quick, small question.
That's it. Were we able to get a hold of the Lairds regarding them coming and sharing what they're doing with CERT and then also their recognition?
I have the number for the Lairds. I will call them tomorrow for the 19th.
Okay, great. I'd like to ask that we agendize that maybe for the next meeting if they're available. And that's it.
Very good. All right. Now we're going to go to the city manager. Do you have any business, any tears or
no
farewells, goodbyes?
No, I'm not sure this is the right meeting, but I do appreciate having the opportunity to work here and work for this community. And I'm pretty clear that, I've enjoyed all of you. And even though you've not always agreed, nor have I necessarily agreed, I think it's been a good experience. I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. And it's worked for me completely. I feel like I'm going to a great place with folks, several of those folks I've known for years. And I'm grateful for that, but I'm also grateful to have worked here. And as I told the press, and I'll say to anybody, I believe that all 5 members of this council are good people. I believe they all come from the right place. They don't always agree. I'm hoping that we find peace, and I think you've picked the right leader to get you there. And that makes me feel good.
Thank you. One last quick note in regards to what you just said. Life is a learning experience. When you came to our city, you took on a pretty heavyweight role, and I think you did fantastic on it.
Thank you.
And second part of that is all of us get better with time. That doesn't mean age, it just means time, understanding, compassion, and being able to look at both sides of every issue and coming up with what's right for the city and simply the most ethical thing to do. So thank you for all the efforts you put into us.
My pleasure.
During that period of time. And some of the challenges we gave you and some of the ones we had fun with.
I'll say, knowing what I know now, I'd do it again. I mean, it's been worth it. So I appreciate that.
We appreciate that kind of an answer, too. Yeah. All right, now we're going to move on to item number 13. We are going into closed session, conference with legal counsel, pursuant to agenda item. So at this time, we are going into the back room. We will come back out and end the meeting out here in full session. Thank you all for being here tonight. Thank you for taking part in our meeting.